Welcome to the ABCs of Preschool, the show that covers all things from parenting to childcare. And we're going to get real about how not just to survive, but thrive in the early years. I'm your host, Miss Amber. I'm a mom of 5 and early childhood expert with over 25 years in the industry. Whether you're a parent, an educator, or just curious about early childhood education, this podcast is for you. Each week, we're going to dive into what life looks like raising little ones, with special guests, industry experts, and personal stories that will leave you inspired and empowered. Get ready to explore, imagine, and discover the beautifully messy that comes with these magical years. Buckle up, because thriving during the early years is a wild and rewarding ride. Hello, this is Miss Amber. Welcome to the ABCs of Preschool podcast. This topic is one that's a rough topic. I think what we're going to talk about today is navigating tough conversations with staff. I think first as women, as this business in early childhood is majority women, as women entrepreneurs, as women in this business, just women in general, not saying all women are like this, it's really difficult to have hard conversations sometimes. It's really difficult to make people feel uncomfortable. It's really hard to be transparent. We don't want to hurt people's feelings. A lot of women are nurturers and very protective over feelings. And again, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but probably 90% true is as women, we're nurturers. We are caretakers. We want everybody to feel good and comfortable and happy. Like that's what we love. And I'll speak personally, like that's what I love. One of the hardest things about being in this business or learning how to be a successful entrepreneur, successful boss, successful CEO is learning how to say and have hard conversations that you really don't want to have. In this episode, we're just going to talk about what happens when you're in a situation that you just really like that person. They're so sweet. They're so kind. They're so great with like the kids, and the parents are just awesome. But there's a disconnect happening and they're not actually doing their job. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe they aren't getting along with other team members. They get along only with certain people, but just in general, they are not doing the job at hand the way you want them to do it. They're not adding value to your company, to your school, other than they're a nice, kind person. Like, what do you do in that situation? It's a really sticky, hard situation because on one hand, we all know that it's really hard to find amazing team members, and there's job shortages out there or shortages of finding really high quality caregivers. But on the other hand, it's not just about one person when you have a team. When you have your team, one person that doesn't show up every day doing their job, not adding value, will start trickling down to your entire team. So you have to stop it. You have to address it. Even as uncomfortable and hard as it is, there's a point where you get where inside then you start getting resentful, you start getting angry, you get super frustrated because this person is just not adding value. They're just not showing up every day. They're showing up, but they're not doing their job. Or they're showing up, but they're not following through. Or they're showing up and their curriculum is not great. They're showing up, but they're just a weak team member. And you can only carry a weak team member for so long before you're at your wit's end, right? Like before you're just exploding every few minutes on the inside. I don't go around exploding on people, but I'll start exploding on the inside and getting so fed up and so frustrated. Like what happens when you pour so much time and energy and training into someone and they're just not getting it? And you don't want to let them go. You don't want to fire them because they do you really like them as a person and they have other really great attributes, but maybe they're in a manager position and you have to take them out because not everybody has managerial skills. Let's be real. Some people do not want that job, or some people get into that job and then you realize as the owner, maybe you put someone as a director or assistant director and like you train them, you pour your heart into them, you think you have it all like ready to go, they're ready to shine, but they never shine. They never get it. They don't get your software. They don't get how you tour. They just are not getting it. How long do you wait until you pull the plug and realize that person really is not a leader? Because a leader is someone who follows through. A leader who is someone who goes over and beyond and wants your school, your business to shine so bright. That is the leader that you want. And they're going to do whatever it takes to get it that way as a group effort, right? Sometimes people just are not built to be a leader. So now what do? You have to backtrack. And it's so awful. It's so horrible. I've only had to do this a few times in my whole 24 years of being an entrepreneur. But sometimes it is necessary for the overall brand, the overall school, and the overall where you're heading as a business. Because when you have one weak person or you have someone in a role that they're not shining, you've got to change it up as hard as it's going to be. Like, it's scary. We have to understand the situation. There's going to be signs that a team member is not performing well in their current role, right? You can give them a list of 10 things and they do one, if that. Or they have so many unfinished things, or they promise to do something and they never finish it. You have to understand that's not just impacting you because you see that list going undone. It's impacting the entire team, especially when someone's in leadership. If someone in leadership is not doing their job and not following through and not really working and carrying the same amount of load as everybody else, the team is going to suffer because they're going to see that and they're going to start resenting that person. It will affect one person's performance, can affect the overall team dynamics. And as much as we like that person, we think they're awesome, that we're friends, it doesn't matter in the workforce if they're not performing and getting and accomplishing what they're hired to accomplish, what they're being paid to accomplish. In a leadership role, you're paid more, but you're expected to do more. And if that person's not doing anything and they're acting still like a teacher or an aide, then we've messed up. We have them in the wrong role. So we have to have a conversation. So what do? You got to prepare a conversation, prepare for this. We have to sometimes assess our own feelings and biases before the conversation. We don't want to go in there and yell and be mean and rude because everybody has feelings. And this is where like the womanly me, the caretaker in me never wants to hurt feelings. I never want to like step on toes or hurt feelings. But sometimes you're causing more damage by not saying the truth, by not having the hard conversations. And it goes both ways. I mean, if we're not transparent and open in a respectful kind of way to our team members who are struggling and the why they're struggling, it will never get better. So we have to like go into this meeting prepared, assess our feelings, like go into the meeting with a calm presence. We also need to gather the evidence. We need to start gathering evidence of all the things that aren't getting done and all the things that our team member, our staff member is not doing, has not been doing. So we need to gather the evidence. We can't just blindside people with a demotion. You should start having meetings with that person. You should be putting that person on probation. You should start doing write-ups for that person so they're not blindsided. Collecting feedback from others. A lot of times what will trigger a hard, tough conversation with a staff member is other staff members. They're going to hit their boiling point where they can't take it anymore because they see someone as being lazy and not completing their job, and they're starting to get resentful. They're starting to see that they're not following through, that they're not doing their job the right way, that they're leaving things for everybody else to do. So you're going to start hearing it from your team. And what's the problem is that one bad apple can really harm a team. So that's why even as hard as it is, you got to have that conversation. Before you go into the meeting, maybe you have an outline for yourself. So you have clarity on what exactly needs to be communicated to this team member and what exactly you want to have to be achieved during this meeting with this staff member. You don't want to go on tangents, right? You don't want to say, how was your weekend? And blah, blah, blah. You want to go in there. There's a purpose to your talk. You want to be kind and nice, but you don't want to lead them astray. You want to kind of get right into it in a respectful, kind way. Everything can be delivered well. Even the hardest things you ever have to say can be delivered well. It's all about the delivery. Can you deliver it with kindness and love and patience and grace? Or are you so worked up because you're so freaking angry? Check yourself before you sit with this meeting. And then let's talk about the conversation itself. You want to create a conducive environment. So we need privacy, right? So don't have this conversation on the playground. Don't have this conversation in front of other team members. It needs to be a private place and time. And you want to make sure there's ample time to have this conversation where this person doesn't have to go break someone or get up for another meeting, because you want this to go well. You want to hit all your points. You want to be precise and you want to be clear, but you also want to let them have a moment after this meeting is done to regroup, because it's going to be a hard conversation, especially when you're taking someone out of a leadership role maybe and putting them back into a regular team member role. Is probably one of the hardest things to do. But it's harder than firing someone, because firing someone, you don't have to see them again, right? But when you're restructuring or taking a team member out of a role you thought they were going to be good at, that's a leadership role, and they're actually not a leader. Maybe at this time they're not a leader. That doesn't mean that in a year or 2 years they may be a leader. Maybe this is the jolt they need. Maybe this shakeup will realize, whoa, I should have done better. I should have been better. I should have followed through. I should have gotten those things done. But you want to choose the right time and place for the conversation. You want the privacy, and you do not want any distractions. Turn your phone off. Make sure you have no distractions. So when you're communicating, you want to avoid I statements. We don't want to sound accusatory. We want to be clear and concise and direct, but we also want to we want to have grace, because always when you're going to have a hard conversation, I always like to reverse the roles. Like, how am I going to feel in this conversation? And so deliver it how you would want it to feel. Like, it's not easy. It's not going to feel good in any way. When people get told negative things, when they get told they're not doing a great job, obviously any of us, right? Like, if I get told I made a mistake, our defenses, our walls go up so fast, right? We want to protect ourselves. So that's what's going to happen. We want to, after you share your thoughts and you present the evidence and you're sharing your concerns, and you start discussing the demotion or I'm going to realign your position. I think we all want all of our team members to shine in the best positions for them. And we're thinking that leadership right now is not your position at this time. I think you're a better teacher. I think you're better, whatever that position is. You shined in this position. And I made a mistake and I moved you up too soon or too fast, or that was just too much for you. And by your actions, by not following through, not completing your tasks, it showed me that may not be the position anymore for you. I don't know, something like that. Highlight the impact on the team, share the document, the examples of the underperformance. You may have been journaling all the things they have not done and are not doing. Explain your decision and the why. We have to explain the why. We are moving to this way. We need a leader that's going to go over and beyond. We need a leader that gets the software, gets the company, gets the brand, and sees the quality, whatever that is. We have to explain the why. Why is this happening? We've given you, it's been a year, we've poured our training and our hearts and all of our education and all of our expectations, and it's just not getting completed. Nothing ever is getting completed. So this is the why. We need someone in this role that can complete the task, so we're not doing your job too. Emphasize their strengths and how they could be utilized in the new position, right? Like, We want everyone on our team to shine, and everybody has a skill set. So you're not firing this person, you're demoting them. You're having a hard conversation because you have to take them out of a leadership role or out of a different position. So it is a demotion. It's going to be a paid demotion, possibly a role demotion. Their ego is going to be hard. It's going to be hurt. Their walls are going to be up. You have to share the why. We have other team members that are coming to us very concerned because they see that you're not being a leader, you're not doing the job, you're on your phone or you're distracted. So we have to look at the company itself, the school itself. We want the school to be on an uphill and not going backwards. So this is our why. And then there should be a follow-up plan after the conversation. So when you say all your hard stuff, you have to have them be able to talk. So you need to be an active listener. That's when, if they have anything to say, if they want to share their hearts, they may be emotional. You may be emotional. I've been in multiple meetings where I've had to share my heart super hard. I get emotional too because you like that person. You want the best for that person. But as a business owner, as the owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to think of your company. You have to think of your business. So it's not personal, but it's a business decision. But you have to be an active listener at the end. Let them share. If they need time off, they need to maybe go for the rest of the day to go get themselves in check. Let them do that. Let them have some time. After the conversation, it's really good to come up with a follow-up plan. Now, be prepared. They may quit. They may not want to stay on anymore in the school or your business in this new role. Being, especially from a leadership back to a teacher, they may not want to stay. So you have to be prepared for that. But again, you're looking at the whole business, right? And all of your team, not just one. Set clear expectations for that employee, for that staff member, if they're going back into a teaching role or a different role. Just go over their expectations now. Who knows? They may feel relieved. Maybe they didn't really want that leader. They thought they did, but they didn't really want it, because their actions showed they didn't want it because they weren't performing. Communicate the changes with the rest of your team. Make sure everybody knows what just happened. You don't need to share the details, but if there's a restructuring of management or leaders, different people are being put in that, it needs to be told immediately to your staff that a restructuring's happened, we have new roles, and make it just a really positive one. And again, we want everybody to shine in their right positions. And sometimes moving people up too fast or it just doesn't work out, and that's okay, and take that pressure off. And if they shine better as a teacher, awesome. That's freaking amazing. And lastly, encourage a culture. We want all of our team members to be able to come to us with open communication and continuous feedback. We are not perfect. As owners, we are far from perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to be making mistakes where we put staffing or teachers. As entrepreneurs, it's just how it is. We are constantly learning as human beings, but we want our teachers and our staff to feel like they can come to us with anything. So those are some tips for you for some navigating really hard conversations, and specifically when you have to actually demote someone. You don't want to fire them, but you want to demote them. So yeah, it's never easy at all. Especially, I think, as women, as caretakers, as nurturers, it's never easy to be super transparent, super honest, but it's always about the delivery. Deliver it with love, kindness, and grace. And that's the best that we can do. But we always have to focus on our business and our team and what is best for the entire picture. You guys have a great week. Thanks so much for joining me on the ABCs of Preschool.
Thanks for listening. I appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hear this podcast. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss the next episode. For more information on how to work with me, Miss Sandberg, visit me at thelovingstartway.com or follow me on Insta at thelovingstartway.